Hello. Welcome to my 31st October. I'm Lucky27, and this is a series of stories I have often told about my life. In my profession, it is quite common to spend long periods of time with just one other person in a dark and quiet room. Because of this, some people find it easier to relax if they're having a conversation. This leads to questions about my life and my experiences. I don't mind at all, especially since my professional goal is to keep people relaxed and calm while I work. It just works out that my life has, thus far, been quite eventful, and that I have a lot of stories to share, when asked. The most commonly asked stories I end up telling have a wide range. From my mother's husbands, my Bloody Mary prank on my sister, the story of my rescue cats, how my husband and I met, my first memory of seeing ghosts, my uncle's crazy birthday and Christmas gifts, and my toxic grandmother. I end up repeating a fair few of these. Sometimes people find comfort, joy, wonder, disgust, entertainment, and knowledge from these stories, and will ask consistently if I'll write a book or screenplay so more people can hear them. That's why I'm putting them here. But you must remember, as you take this journey with me, that these are my memories, and not irrefutable fact. My life happened to me, and as such, it is not a novel I can reread or a movie I can rewatch. I saw it once, and this is my memory of it. That being said, I have chosen to start here with the second most common story I end up telling when asked. Today's story is entitled, My First Ghost Memory. I am quite honestly surprised how often I get asked about this one. I don't think I come off as a particularly spooky person. I look average, I dress professionally but comfortably, and I don't advertise that I am sensitive. But it still somehow comes up in conversation. I have to start by saying that, according to my mother, I have always been sensitive. She's told me that as a baby I would interact regularly with things that she couldn't see. I would laugh at unseen things, and as I got older, I would baby gab to things conversationally while in my crib when I was supposed to be sleeping. She said my older sister, who was in crib next to me, was unfazed by this behavior and wouldn't react to anything. My mom also reminded me of how I used to come into her room and ask to sleep with her when I was a kid. I had told her at the time that it was because the people in my and my sister's room would not be quiet, so I couldn't sleep. My sister, who shared the room with me, never seemed to be bothered. I obviously don't remember that very well. I do, however, have a memory that I think is probably my first spooky memory. I had always been afraid of my grandmother's double-wide mobile home. She lived there from the time I was a toddler. There were two areas in that place that always gave me the creeps, and that was the living room and the small bedroom. I didn't like the rest of the place very much either, but my grandmother usually had night lights in the bathrooms and in the kitchen because she was already in her 60s when my sister and I were born, and she was afraid of falling. We used to spend a lot of time at Grandma's home when we were kids. She had an open-plan dining room, living room, kitchen area. It was in the shape of a kind of circle. There were no doors separating the rooms, just unconnected walls. The living room was a place I never wanted to go at night. I wouldn't even look inside. I would run to the kitchen and turn on the light anytime I wanted something in there at night. That was from age 3 or 4, probably. My husband later gave me some insight as to why that was, but that is a different story. As I said, the other room that I didn't like was the smaller of the 2 bedrooms in the home. When we were little, my sister and I slept in there together. My grandmother later turned that into her bedroom, and the bigger bedroom was left for guests, usually my sister and I. Though after around age 4 or 5, I think, I started to pick fights with my sister, or do something that would force my grandmother to separate us at night, so I didn't have to sleep in there. She usually made me sleep in the big room with her, or in the small family room that was separated from the living room by a display shelving wall that was partially see-through. Anywho, the small bedroom had a sliding closet door that took up most of one wall, and there was a small window really high up on the other wall. This meant that the only light that we had at night from that small window shined onto the closet. My sister's bed was in the middle of the room under the window, facing the closet, and my bed was against the wall and faced the bedroom door, which was on the same wall as the closet. In the closet, my sister and I had some toys, which included a Crystal Castle playset from a company I'm not going to mention, some Barbies, and some other odds and ends. We also had twin teddy bears. My teddy bear was a light brown and had a light blue sweater on, and my sister's was a dark brown bear with a yellow sweater. I used to sleep with my teddy bear on my bed with me and my stuffed lion Lionel. He's also a different story. I have always had a hard time sleeping, especially at night. I sleep better in the day. I'm not exactly sure why, but I have some ideas. On this night in particular, I was awake. I was looking around absently, like you do when you can't sleep, and I happened to look at the floor of the open closet that was across from me. I noticed the toys on the floor, and then I turned and looked at something else. But when my eyes returned to the closet, the toys were in a slightly different place. The Crystal Castle was slightly more open than it had been originally. Little toys I had clearly seen before now looked like they were further into the closet than they had been. And one Barbie had turned its head to face me. Now, I obviously could have been wrong. But after I turned away again, then looked back, they had moved even more, and the Barbie was now sitting up. Then while I watched, it stood up and almost seemed to slowly walk toward me. So I tossed my teddy bear at it and screamed for my mom. Now, this is why I think this was one of my first memories of spooky going-ons, because my mom almost never slept over at my grandmother's house. They did not like each other, and she would only stay over if my sister and I begged her to, or she had asked if we could all stay over because she was hiding from her abusive third husband. I was 3 and 4 years old when he was in our lives, so that's why I think this is one of the earliest ones I have. Anyways, when I screamed, my poor sister got woken up, and my mother and grandmother came barreling into the room. When I tearfully explained what had happened and pointed to the closet, we found the door closed. I hadn't closed it, nor had my sister, but it was closed. I was terrified. I begged my mom to save my teddy bear since I was sure he was battling the Barbie to save me, but when she opened the closet, the bear was gone. She tore that closet apart looking for it because I was hysterical. But she couldn't find him. The Barbie was there, strangely sitting inside the Crystal Castle, but no bear. My mom asked me if I was sure it wasn't a dream, and my grandmother was convinced I was making it up, but nobody could find the bear anywhere in the room or anywhere in the house. My mom had tucked me in, so she knew it had been there when I went to sleep, but it was missing. My darling sister and her teddy bear ended up sleeping in my bed with me and Lionel that night. But the story doesn't end there. About 10 years later, my sister and I were spending our summer with our grandma, like we always did. She had picked us up from the airport, and we had just gotten inside her house when I looked at this old wooden child's rocking chair that she always had in her family room. And there was my teddy bear. I'm fairly certain that my grandmother had no memory of the kerfuffle that had taken place nearly a decade earlier, so I conversationally asked her where she had found him. She told me that he was on the top shelf of a junk closet that she had in the other bedroom. Funny thing is, those two closets, the junk closet and the closet in the small bedroom, were actually connected to each other. There was a wall between them, but they were connected on the corners to each other. She swore that she found him in the junk closet, but doesn't remember how he got there in the first place since nobody saw him after that night with the Barbie. Now, what became of that bear after all of this, I'm not sure. He probably ended up in a Goodwill or something, and hopefully he was adopted by another small child that he could protect. But I did make sure during that summer to quietly thank it for having protected me from whatever was in that closet all those years ago. And that was my first ghost memory. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the journey with me. I'm not sure how often I'll be posting something here, so leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and the bell, so you get updated when I do post. If you have questions or you want to know more about something I've said, please leave a comment and maybe I'll make a video explanation on the subject. But please be polite and courteous with the comments. My feelings don't get hurt, but the world has enough hate and judgment in it. It doesn't need yours on this video. If you think you know who I am, please don't leave a comment guessing my identity. Just send an email to the address in the description box. Thanks, and I'll see you when I see you.